Welcome to the Tearing It Up podcast. I'm your host, Taryn. We'll be tearing it up, tearing it down, and tearing it apart, dissecting all things related to those who deviate from the standard. From leaders of their industry to leaders of mediocrity, and maybe a gear review or two thrown in. We shoot the shit and let the conversations flow, so if that's not your style, this may not be for you. Otherwise, listen in. Hope to light a fire in you somehow.
Okay.
We here again. And again with a topic that we're going to try to stick to the whole time. This topic, I feel like we could really go on, on rants for just ever. There's just so much to say about it. We're going to try and make this one kind of like a little bit of a quickie and, maybe sometime dive into it deeper, maybe be able to have a guest who has some insight professionally into some of these things, whatever that might mean. I guess I say professionally because I literally just listened to a podcast with a plus size model who has been in the industry for a long time, and it was just really interesting to hear her take on things. And because, like I said, she's a professional in the plus size modeling industry, and thus has a lot to say about things like using the term fat and like how she describes herself as a fat woman. So did I even mention that we're talking about body image? I don't get
No, you didn't.
I just said we had a topic. Yeah. So our topic is body image.
Yep.
One of the topics that we put in our poll and got some responses for, and I just think overall, whether we had it on that poll or not, that it's something that we talk about kind of often too, go into little rants and whatnot. Yeah. So having a episode fully about it was just good to have. So this lady, she describes herself as fat. And funny, I listened to like another one recently too, that same lady who what's her name? I wrote it down. Marley Blonsky, I want to say. She's the co-founder of All Bodies on Bikes. So both these women are plus size women and describe themselves as fat. So like just taking away the negative connotations of saying fat, you're not offending them anymore by doing it. So I think both of those women just have some good insight into this topic, that it would be awesome to be able to have someone like that be able to talk to us who've maybe experienced different things than we have, but we've all experienced problems or issues with body image. So that's why I thought, like for me and Amber, just to kind of discuss it and start off with, just discussing like our own personal journeys with body image. Again, just so if there's anybody out there, they can relate and not feel so alone in it, but also be encouraged to try to care less about body image, I guess, is the goal, really.
As easy as that can be, based upon our societal standards that women are upheld to.
Exactly. And yes, men, I'm sure feel it too, but we are sticking to what we know as women and what we feel as women. And so everyone feels it, I'm sure, but all we know is our own experiences as women. And from what we know from our other lady friends or women identifying friends or whatever the case may be. So yeah, societal standards, they make it really hard. They shove body image just down our throat is the thing, that because you see pictures of beautiful people everywhere and they all kind of look the same as far as what their body type is. Facial features, hair color, things like that may be different, but the body type is slim, it's thin, and it's just like been down our throats forever. And especially us, particularly being born in the late 80s, raised in the 90s and early 2000s, when just like super thin things were in.
Yes.
We had just have, I think our generation is one that has suffered a lot from body image and body like dysmorphia and things like that, from the simple things of just clothes. I've always had a problem with clothes fitting me well, because I've always had, again, I've talked about this a bunch on my Instagram, probably on the podcast too. Just like, I have fucking love handles, have always had them. So it's like a spare tire being around my waist. It's hard to find things that fit because high waisted things don't always fit because like that's where I hold a bunch of fat. But low rise or anything like below that, then it's awkward because then you just feel like you're just spilling out of pants or whatever. And so like what top do you pair with this? And just having to think about everything all the fucking time. But so because I've always had this body type and shape, even from a young age, it's been hard to find things to wear. I never fucking shopped at Abercrombie. Like I think maybe I tried on something there once or twice, but one, I just never felt welcome in that store because I felt like people just
Yeah.
like they judged me, even like they were older people working there. And when I walk in, still felt like, oh, I don't belong here. And like
Yeah.
nothing's gonna fit me. And that's just been a part of my life ever since. I mean, it started to be a time period where it felt like I wasn't feeling it as much because I wasn't shopping at the mall and buying things online or
Yes.
fucking going to Target, really just buying like cheap jeans and then whatever else. I've never been a fashionista. Um, but now I've been feeling it a lot more in the last few years, and not even like I don't personally think it has anything to do with 2020 and COVID and gaining like stress weight or whatever it was. Like I just think it's at my age in life, being in my mid 30s and
Yeah.
a woman, and just I've never had a fast metabolism or understood anything like that, but I just feel like suddenly my life is in a different place, and now being more like in the outdoor industry and always around clothes, especially our store particularly carries a lot of European brands which quote unquote have a European fit, which is slim and slender. I fucking just always, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the Abercrombie vibes of like, well, I'm not even gonna try that on from that
Yeah.
brand because there is no way it's gonna fit, even if I wear like a men's item or something. So the fact
Yes.
that like the point here of this long tangent is that clothes also just make us feel that way. So we see the images everywhere, whether it's on the, fucking ad for a water bottle, I don't know, like it's a thin person
Yeah.
outside like doing the activity. Um, but to the fact of trying clothes on, they're just not made for everybody. And you
Yeah.
really have to try to find what fits your body, but that's really hard when there's stuff that you just feel like is not made for you. And
Which most things aren't.
yeah, so interesting about this podcast I listened to with the model. Dana was her first name. I forget her last name, but she mentioned, which this is very interesting because okay, when people have like athletes have pro models of a say snowboard, you're like, oh, I want the
Mhm.
Hana Beeman LibTech, what the fuck ever. You order that board. That is not the exact board they use. They came up with that board, maybe the shape and design, all that, but the one that they use is made just for them. The model that is on the floor being sold to you is not the same exact stiffness or anything like that because odds are the
Interesting.
general consumer is not going to need the exact specs that they need. So
Yeah,
just
good point.
keeping something like that in mind is this model was talking about how when they do a photo shoot, they are literally getting the clothes sewn onto them. Like they are being adjusted for that photo. So it looks like it fits perfectly, but I will not be able to then go to the store and try that on and it's not going to fit that
And
way. Which obviously it's not because duh, all bodies are different. But that was even more mind blowing of like, oh, I feel like you don't even have a chance now. Like to like it's one thing when you see the way something fits on a mannequin, um, in the
mm.
store, but when you see it on a real person, you are really thinking like this is a real life depiction.
Oh,
That's how it should fit and lay. And you're like, oh, come to find out, like, no. And maybe people fucking knew this. Like, but
I didn't know that. I had no idea.
no. I mean, I can think that
I
with
mean,
a
it makes sense.
mhm.
I feel like I've seen models have like like the front of them looks totally fitting, but like on the back there's like all these clamps cinching the whatever clothing that they're wearing to make it look like taut and perfectly fit.
Right. And I mean, when you think of a high-end fashion show or something, obviously those clothes are made to fit the model who is going down the runway. But when you are opening
Mm-hmm.
up, flipping through a catalog or scrolling through the brand's website and see a person, especially if you're like in the bigger sizes, you are feeling like, oh, great, that person kind of looks like me. It should fit. And then how disappointing if you show up at the store or order the item and you're like, this is not how it looked at all. Um,
Yeah.
so everything is just so deceitful. So they set these
Yes,
standards
yes.
on us and then just deceive us. And it's so fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
And where do
It
they come
is.
from and
It's
why even? Like the fact that we feel like we have to even live up to these societal standards is just crazy. But it puts, if we're going to talk about, cisgendered male and females, um, again, because that's the only experience I know, if these men are getting fed the same images and messages that I am, then of course they're going to expect to see that from me. And I'm going to expect that I have to give it to them because I know that this is what they're seeing and this is the images they're getting. And
Mhm.
and it's just, I don't know how the heck we change it, or how everyone obviously is going to have different ways to get over
Yes.
their body image issues because like they differ, right? So for me, um personally, there's a conflict always of how I feel about my body, because there's plenty of times I love it because it allows me to do all the things I do, but I've also struggled with for years of wondering why I don't have the energy I want to have. Why don't I have the endurance I want to have? I've lived my life being active. Why are certain things still such a fucking struggle for me? And that makes me really mad. Like my body is not doing what it should be doing. But on the other hand, it's doing a lot.
Mhm.
But I used to always love my
Yes.
legs. I've never really loved
Mhm.
I've never loved my midsection, I've never really, there's moments I'll be proud of my boobs when they're like looking good in an outfit, but not
Hey,
like on their
girl.
own, I'm like, they've never been these like great perky things, but they're big. Like they can look good in a
Yeah.
with the right bra or outfit or whatever, I'm trying to do. But
Yep.
like as the last couple years, even my legs I've started to look at them like, oh my God, these are not the legs I feel like I used to have. Like they're
Yeah.
they're bigger, but and even though I know that they're more muscular, um they're cellulite and I'm pale. That I'm like, okay, I still like my
Yes.
calves and that's about it. My feet feel fucking big. Like I'm like, okay, why do
Yeah.
I just feel like I don't fit in anything. It's overall, I just feel big all the time, too big for anything.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
but also if you hear from
Feel you.
these,
I feel you.
yeah. And so also if you, the ladies I spoke about earlier, both of them had mentioned this, that plus size starts like I don't even really know, but I want to say after like an 18. And so I've always also been in this weird middle space where I'm not considered plus size, but I'm definitely not fitting in the like small, medium, large. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm in like the tail end. It just depends, large or extra large, but I'm starting to feel like I'm growing out of that and there's not much more places I can go at least in a store. Like there's
Yeah.
not stuff for me to
I
try on.
feel
I
you
have to
there.
order it. And that's fucking annoying
Mm-hmm.
that there's a size run up to this, and if I want that size I have to order it, and then oh, maybe it doesn't fit, so then I have to send it back. I'm like, this is bullshit. Why can't I just fucking try anything on like any other normal person? um so it's
Yeah.
really frustrating, and that does not help with body image because again, I walk into a place and feel just like too big for it and like an anomaly, like I said, because things just like don't fucking fit me. And like this size 16 something may fit a person who might look bigger than me, but because of my body shape, it still doesn't fit me the same. And it's just frustrating.
So discouraging. Yes.
Yes,
Yes. Yeah.
very
And
discouraging.
it just makes you feel like such an outsider. I was watching, I went and got my nails done the other day, and they had How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days on. And I
I've
was
been thinking
looking
about
at
that
these
movie a
women.
lot lately, actually. It's funny you say
Really?
that. Yeah.
In what facet?
Well, because I have a plant here and I just keep seeing plants or whatever, and for some reason the phrase just keeps popping in my head the way I say something, or if I see the plant, like, our love burn, you let it
Yes.
die. Like, I love it so much. And then I saw it
So
on,
funny.
yeah. But anyway, I digress. Go ahead.
Um, so I was watching this movie at the nail place, and so there wasn't like a whole lot of audio. And I was just like looking at the women who are in this movie, and their upper arms are like as skinny as my wrists. And I'm like, I don't know many people who have arms that tiny. Like, and it's all across the board. Like if you look at caricatures drawn up in Disney, like the body image in that is so unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
Or Barbies.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I saw something on the internet that was like, oh, let's take the measurements of Barbie and apply it to like real life actual size. And
Mm-hmm.
the measurements that came out were just like fucking bonkers, man. And
Yeah.
that expectation that little girls, women all over are expected to uphold. Another thing is that I feel like society is like, oh, women should be small, and like as a form to be like, don't take up your space. Like
Space.
don't take up. Yes. And for people who are real and who are raised on the American agricultural general way of life, like it's just what's also in our food,
Yeah.
like I remember when I went to Asia, and I felt so good and light about all the food that I ate, and then I came back home and I just felt heavy, and like things were different. And I mean, like I eat whole foods. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
we eat pretty dang healthy, you know what I'm saying? Like we're
Mm-hmm.
not, I don't know. I just like most of my girlfriends who have similar body sizes to me, which I consider you to have a similar body size to me, where we're
Mm-hmm.
like taller, bigger breasted, like not like our thighs are bigger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're muscular. We have thighs, man. And I'm just like, we don't eat unhealthy. Like, yeah, we have a drink every once in a while, but we're active human beings, and
Mm-hmm.
like we're not what we see in the TV, on these ads, in these clothing article. Like it just doesn't line up, and there's just something that's so misstrewn, and we just can't help for having the bodies that we just have. Like
Right.
we're just born in these fucking bodies, man.
Exactly. And so there's so many things working against us from a young age, especially women our age or around older as well, for sure. And younger, up until really, like, I think the young generation now, like maybe my niece will have less of this growing up because there are more people and being represented in toys, cartoons, things like that. There's still a long way to go, but yes, talk about Barbie.
And
I
less
believe,
airbrushing.
yeah. So there's a I'm sure I'm pretty sure there's this woman who has had like she's like the real life Barbie. She's had all this plastic surgery to replicate the Barbie measurements as much as possible. But I mean, it's insane. She looks fucking fake because she is, and that is completely not maintainable. I want to say her waist was like it's something so crazy, like a child's waist, like beyond a 000, but like these F-size boobs and like, just unbelievable. And then not to mention too, like things aren't even made for us. So tangents I always go on are in the athletic world, especially. Okay, we're promoting women doing sport, but we're still not making clothes for women to do the
Yes.
sport. It's like you're
Shit,
still not
dude.
making shorts or pants that fit thighs that have muscle mass. I mean, I know this chick who I think I've talked about her maybe before that when I was going to CrossFit, she was a hardcore CrossFit gal, but she was a tiny little thing. I mean, real skinny, but she's squatting the same as I am. And, if you put us side to side, it should seem like, like we wouldn't be in that same category just because she's much smaller, but she has that muscle and she knows how to move the weight, that it's just you can't
Mm-hmm.
judge on either end. So someone being people with who are super skinny have body image issues, maybe about that, especially if they want to look lean and muscular. But so her
Yes. I didn't even
and
think of that.
yeah, and there's, people who want to be smaller. There's a middle ground that we're fed, and but it is still, that middle is still small, but there are people out there who are skinny and they want to be like lean looking and have a little more weight on them and muscular, and so she's still moving this weight. It's fucking awesome. Um but I'm just saying, like, there's a huge range between her and I. And so, yeah, how do you make a pair of pants that or shorts that fit the person doing that sport when they could look like her, me, and everything in between? But
Yes.
just to think about, I think there's a good chunk of women who are skiing or biking and have some big thighs that, if I don't want to put running shorts on and have them feel like spandex. That's fucking ridiculous. If
Ah,
running shorts are supposed to be these like loose and flowy things, I'm like, oh, I can't even put those on. Everything just looks like tight fitting on my legs. It's so
yes.
insane. Like I said, we're working against shit, and no one's
Mm-hmm.
working with us. And there's a lot of companies out there trying to expand their lines. They understand how hard it can be to do that because of just material testing, this, that. But it's just, there's so much that needs to be fixed and talked about, really. And there is more conversation around it. But one of those things, speaking of just clothes, because to me personally, clothes are really what impacts my negative body image. So, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not fitting well. But the fact that last year I bought two dresses at Macy's, had like a gift card or something, perusing the mall in Washington while I was there. And I was like, fuck it. I'm going over to the plus size section and I'm going to see what's over there. And I bought these two dresses that were a 1X, which I don't know really like what the difference is between like XL and 1X. I don't know. But it was a mental kind of like fuckery to think that I was over in plus size. Also, fucked up to me that it was over here, out of the way of everything, and big
Yes.
signs that say plus size, like, hey, you fatty, here's a special area for you to shop in. It's upstairs in the back corner. Like, if you want to, but the main stuff is right there, these sizes, these brands, this, that, and the other. It's like, why can't the whole floor just be women's? And yeah,
Yeah.
certainly
Why does it
range,
have to be
but
segregated?
yeah, and depending on what kind of store you're in, it might just be they're sectioned off by brands. So it doesn't even have to be like all of the big sizes are over here.
Yeah.
But have your different brands and their corners and whatever. And maybe one brand does make plus size things and does not make smaller. Maybe one brand makes smaller clothes and not bigger clothes. But why do we have to even section it off for the fact that like that I had to feel embarrassed to even walk over there or be seen in that area that I'm shopping in there,
And
and then
then
to feel
feel it
bad about
for days
myself because
afterward.
I found something that fit me better there. I I mean, it was a weird place that I was like, who fucking cares? It fits and I look way better in this dress than I would in trying to squeeze in a dress there. I went into a store just here in Truckee. I mean, it was like a board shop. I was just wasting time again at lunch trying to get steps in, and I look at this little cute like polo button up like dress with pockets. It looked pretty small, but also I'm like, and it was a large. I barely even try to put a top on that's a large anymore. I always go for extra large. But I was like, well, let's see. Oh my God, like I got stuck with my arms up almost. Granted, I was trying it on over like another shirt, but still barely
Yeah.
got my arms through the fucking armholes. Barely got it
Yeah.
over my boobs. I swear, if I should have taken a picture, if you would have seen me trying this on, it would look like I'm trying an extra small fucking item on. I'm like, this is a large. A large
Yeah.
for fucking who? Like a large and
Yeah,
toddler?
baby.
Like, it really doesn't make sense to me because it's just fucking annoying that a large over here fits and a large over here isn't like not even close. So why can't we just get on the
Yeah.
same fucking measurement patterns here and or
Yes.
find a way that sizing isn't so like
Daunting.
yeah, and segregated almost. Like I said,
Yes.
plus sizes shouldn't have to be called out plus size. And I mean,
No.
I'm sure there's a woman out there who could be upset at the fact that they're very petite and small and feel the same way, embarrassed that they have to shop in the petite section and nothing fits them. And,
Yeah.
they fit in like a 12-year-old boy's shirt, and that has to feel bad and upsetting. So why can't we just, like I said, here's the women's section? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and there's also the argument of people just not even, you don't even need to say men's or women's, right? Just fucking have clothes, say
Yeah.
dress clothes, active wear, like whatever. But is it for me, clothes are the thing that really makes my negative body image spiral. And for some it
Yeah.
might be exercise ability or many things, but I do think clothing for a lot of us is what is triggering. Um
Totally.
and I mean, so I wrestled, obviously, we all know that as a kid. So just being in, no, like very little clothing doing that and wrestling guys and being out on the mat in front of a bunch of people, people looking at my body, I never felt judged really. But I think again, just because that sport was so ingrained in me. However, I did have these when I was young, they didn't make women's singlets. But we found these like
Yeah.
bodysuits for dancers. And I would wear that under my singlet because it was higher cut. But I
Hmm.
got the thing when I was 8 years old, and I fucking somehow still wore it all through high school. But it got super tight, obviously. But I would wear it
Yes.
instead of just like some girls would wear just a sports bra under their singlet. But I wore it because it was tight and a little more compressive, and I felt like it did make my body look thinner in that singlet. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's so fucking crazy that I still did think about it, I guess. I mean, I just said I didn't think about it, but obviously I did. Like, that's why I wore that instead. I mean, my mom had one of those um ab like trainers that was a electric, like you put it on and it would like send this electric shock that was supposed to be working your abs, because this is all about when, and it's still a thing that people think you can spot train your fat away. I mean, I would do hundreds of those side bends with dumbbells to try and get rid of my
Yes.
love handles. So I wore that ab
Yes.
thing because it would work your ab muscles. So if you're working your ab muscles, then that meant that you were getting rid of the fat in your belly. She also had this band that you just wrapped around. It was like a neoprene band you just wrapped around your waist, and just so you would like sweat there. She had this girdle that I stole a couple times and wore. And one time I even saran wrapped my stomach before, like it was either a seventh grade or eighth grade, like end of the year dance. Um,
Yeah.
because nothing, like I was wearing this tank top, so I think the girdle thing you might be able to see that I had something on underneath. So I fucking saran wrapped to hold it all in so it would be nice and smooth. But I wore a button up shirt, like this cute long sleeve button up over the top of that tank top anyway. So I don't know, but I'm just like, I was 12 or 13 years old
Yeah.
doing that. And those are things
Shit,
I just
man.
haven't thought about in a long time, because I never had a problem with food really, which, wrestling at that age and being a girl, that's very easy to fall into when you're
Shit,
thinking
yeah.
about weight all the time. But I
Yes.
never I never did, but I definitely like was super self-conscious of my midsection and still fucking hate it. Like, and
Yes,
I
dude.
just don't know
Real.
how we, because now it's so ingrained in me
Make
that
it
I think
okay.
even seeing people who, are showing skin, I'm like, and are bigger bodied or whatever. I'm like, good for you. You want to wear that crop top and those pants? Like, that's awesome. But I still don't want to do that and have the perfect body, in mind, the body that I want, the goals of it have changed. It still wants to be smaller, but I don't want to be, the smallest. I'm like, I'm never going to be 135 pounds. I haven't been since I was
Yeah,
like
no.
13. So
Yeah.
it's not about that, but I am like, yeah, getting real tired of not finding clothes that fucking fit. Like, I can't walk into just any regular store.
Yeah,
Like,
no. Can't.
yeah.
I generally shop at thrift stores and I'll even catch myself like in like the size 12, 10 section and then looking at women next to me and being like, "What? You're a size 10, 12?" Or like thinking people look at me and being like, "What? She's a size 10, 12?" You know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
also based on first looks, your body could be the ideal body for somebody else. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's all about perspective or like thank God that throughout our older years in life, like body images like Beyonce or Serena Williams, like the thicker women, like the stronger, thicker women are like becoming more accepting. But
Mm-hmm.
still, I'm so conditioned to being like, yes, it's beautiful, but for me, I'm like, oh, but that's like I don't fully see that as being beautiful. I still
Yep.
see the like super skinny,
Mm-hmm.
thin of being like the standard of beauty, and I need like it needs to change within my brain. And as much as like I'm conscientious and aware of it, it's still just like so deeply embedded.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And it's like everything where it's easy to give the advice and say like, you're beautiful, you don't need him, you don't need this, like whatever. But for yourself, you find you're in a toxic relationship with a person, with food, with whatever. But you can sit there from the outside
Yeah.
and try to lift somebody up and tell them you're fucking beautiful. And like I was saying, I see these like bigger women, bigger than me, wearing these clothes that I'm like, oh my god, you look fucking like fly in that. But yeah, you wouldn't
Yes.
catch me, like I can't it dead in that, like not at all.
Yeah.
And I have I've looked shit up, and I'm 30, almost fucking 5 years old, and googling like what's the best clothes for like love handles, like trying to find a
Yes.
style
Like how to
that fits.
hide.
Yeah, like not even
Yes.
really how to, I mean, I guess that's what the articles that all come up are, how to hide. But for me, I want
Yes.
to dress for my body type. And that's not talked about at all. It's like, here's the style and the trend, and that's all that's available to you. But we need
Mhm.
more information and feel okay with shopping for your body type. Because like I said, these two dresses that I got, I'm like, there's a little bit of ruching on them, which is what I guess, kind of does hide the body part that I'm trying to hide or whatever. I know like A-line dresses are my favorite, where they're like tighter, like a little cinch at the waist, but then the skirt like flows out. Like that is my favorite
Yep.
and I love it. But I want to feel comfortable in my clothes. So I'm like, what clothes would fit my body type best? How can I, like, skinny jeans are just what I fucking grew up in, whatever. But how do I
Yes.
find the best pants for my body type so that I can start feeling good in clothes and know what to look for instead of going into a store that has nothing for me. Um, but it
Yeah.
takes trial and error, and most of that trial and error is just like disappointing because again, I can't go into a lot of these stores and try stuff on because they don't have the
Yes.
sizes I need in stock. Um, because
Also, the lighting in them are fucked up. Like, I don't know if it's the lighting or
um,
like the mirrors, but there's just like something like whenever I go into a dressing room where I'm like, I don't feel like I look like this at home, you know? Like, there's
yeah,
something about like the space and the place.
like don't you want to
I
sell
don't
your
know. It's
shit?
hard
Why
to
wouldn't you make it more flattering? You like, I feel like there's a thing
yes.
about a lot of
And not
people talk
like
about Target for this because there's like the three mirrors and the lighting, and it's just so awful. Like, target specifically, but
Yes.
um
Yeah,
it,
but also like why are we like it's the lighting, it's the mirror.
yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like we are just humans standing on this ground with gravity and our bodies.
And it's like,
It's just
there's a maybe, and I mean, this is all shit I'm just saying, but of course wouldn't always go for. But the idea of not even having a mirror in a fitting room, try it on. Does it fit? And do you
yeah.
feel good? And without even looking at it, because I'll tell you, I
Okay,
walk
word,
around,
sister.
the image of myself in my brain is not how I look, I think, in person. And I think that's simple as how people hate hearing their own voice because their voice sounds different to them in their head. I'll walk around feeling like just this strong, smaller like person. And if I see a picture of myself, especially if it was like not out, not at the side, I'm not ready for it, whatever, I'm like, oh my God, that is how I already feel like a big person. But when I see an image or pass by a mirror, I'm like, but I look that fucking big to everybody else. And that may not be true at all. Like people could
Yeah,
see me the way
yeah,
I do, but I'm of course picking apart this or that. But it's just I more often than not, I'm like, I don't even want to see myself, which is also not good. You
yes,
should want to walk by a mirror and be like, hey, bitch, like looking good, you know? You want to see yourself in
yes,
pictures and
yes,
be happy to be in them, not like, oh, don't show me that picture. Like, I look so gross. You don't want those thoughts. But I'm saying, so in a
yeah,
fitting room, though, like, I. I want to feel good in the clothes first, and then maybe I can see myself, but if the
I
first
love
thing
that
is
thought.
like how I look, especially if you're just, not very upkept that day or something, you may feel great in the
Yeah,
jeans or the shirt, but you're like, wow, my hair is a mess, my face is a mess, whatever. Like, you're not going to get it anyway. So it's like, maybe we don't fucking have
totally.
mirrors in them, and maybe we just try it on and say, like, yeah, I feel good in this, and just go out the fucking door. Um, and these are
Yep.
just all things to just figure out what your own triggers are, I guess, and how to approach them. But I'm gonna, I should have never tried that stupid dress shirt thing. Also, it barely like came below my vagina, so I'm like, how is this supposed to be a dress on an adult human? Like, this is
Yeah,
insane.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
but
Another thing on a brighter note, I am absolutely loving seeing real people in ads nowadays and
mhm,
like wearing like lingerie, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
real actual fucking people, man, that aren't the standard skinny stereotype that models are supposed to be. It has been so refreshing to see all the different body types, the short, the tall, the super
mhm,
skinny, the fat, the not fat, the people who have like alopecia, like all,
yeah.
fucking all of it. We all need to feel like we're represented. And another thing that I've noticed growing up is like we tend to gravitate towards people who look like us and also have similar body types.
Hmm.
Like I know that I have a lot of girlfriends who have similar body types to me, and I'm like, yes, I love these people and like I genuinely have a true connection with them, but I'm also like, it's because we look the same
Well,
and we can relate.
that's very interesting you say that, because I feel that in ways of I'm attracted to people who are interested in the same things that I am, but I don't feel like I know many people at all who look like me, and that's where I've had body image issues. Is so growing up, my best friends at first in elementary school were all like the same size. Jordan was actually taller than me, in fifth grade, and then
Whoa.
yeah, and so my for folks who don't know, my best friend growing up, Jordan, she is half white, half Korean. So, and she was, well, she's shorter now, but like, so at the time she was taller than me in fifth grade. But then all of a sudden I shot up. And, but a lot of my girlfriends in throughout school were smaller than me. And that's why it's such a problem. Like, I have no one to fucking ever trade clothes with. I,
Yes.
these like naked lady parties that you have always had and stuff. I mean, I've been gone out of Washington, I think, for the most part since you've had them. But I'm like, I won't really attend any of those because no one has anything that fits me, and anything I have will not fit them. So I've felt very isolated in that there's nobody like me.
Yes.
And that's just been, you know, in its own weird kind of loneliness universe of, yeah, like
Yeah.
no one gets it, no one understands, because all my friends can, they might not be happy with their bodies, but they can put on anything that is in our store or any store like in downtown Truckee, and not have to go to the plus size section in Macy's. And that's the thing too, is like I know I can't wear certain brands, and that's annoying because I want to be able to,
Yes.
I don't want to have to wear a special brand that isn't of quality either, because I now work in an environment where the brands that we carry, there's a lot of thought put into what we bring into the store, and to be sustainable companies and more environmentally friendly and stuff. And so if I'm being fucking forced to shop at a department store that carries mass shit and doesn't give a shit about the world, like that's frustrating, that I can't even try to
Yes.
support brands that I want to support because they're doing the right things. Like I have to wear clothes.
Yeah.
So like
Yes.
what am I to do?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. Um, but it's so, yeah, it's just weird. Like we've mentioned, there's just a huge gaps in everything. If you want people to be more sustainable, environmental friendly, these things, um, and even with
Yeah.
food and stuff, it has to be more readily available. We have to be able
Hmm.
to get it into all these people's hands who need the things. So how the
Yeah.
fuck do we do that? It's
True.
Yeah, it's crazy. And like I said, for just body image is just so, now I feel like
That.
the like meth head cocaine, like fucking thin runway model thing is back, that people are going back to that. And I mean, I feel way far removed from that or anything, but still, it's like that's not a style that we should be condoning. That's not what should be
Yeah.
the trends on TikTok and this and that. But this also leads me to um another kind of topic on body image, is like compliments, and complimenting people just on how they look, and the movement of trying to stop that, basically to not do it.
Yeah.
And
Totally. Any comment on somebody's body, anyone,
because
like
you
whether you're,
never know what's
yeah,
going on in their
you just
life. So
never
if you're
know.
like, oh my god, you look
Commenting on
really,
anyone's body.
yeah, when you're like, oh my god, you look really great, and maybe it's because maybe the person lost weight. So for instance, this person that I follow, but she was a professional athlete, but suddenly, like, she had some injuries, so she's always looked fit as fuck, but really quickly it was like lean, like holy shit, every muscle in her body just like popping out as if she, went through a cut or something, like a diet cut, to look lean, like you're almost prepping for a um like a show, like a bodybuilding show or something. But it's because she went through a breakup. Like she wasn't eating, so she lost weight, and the way her body is very muscular, like it looked very lean. But for her, that wasn't
Yeah.
a compliment because she's just gone through
Or
a
her health.
terrible time. Yeah, and another woman who his sister suddenly died, so she couldn't eat, lost a lot of weight, and people are like, "Oh my god, you look great! It looks like you lost weight," and you're like, "Cool, this is the worst time of my life." Um,
Yeah.
and also that goes with gaining weight too. I just mentioned those weights of or those examples of the women being smaller, because that, in what a lot of people's minds is the goal, like you said, to be smaller. So
Yeah.
you should think that if you're getting complimented on losing weight, that you should be so happy, and it's like, no. And again, gaining weight, you have no fucking clue what's going on in that person. That person could be sick too and not well, and it could be very triggering and emotional for them to be in that place of having gained weight. They could be very uncomfortable with it, but there could be something that, they can't do anything about it. So it's
Totally.
hard to find those things to say, because at the same time, when a friend tells me like, oh my god, you look so good, and then and you're like, you wanted to, you tried to, right, and you're like, yes, like that's what I was aiming for. I got it and I'm feeling great. Love to hear it. So where's the line there? Um,
Yeah.
and I think maybe it obvious just not commenting on someone's weight, but being able to say like, "Oh my God, Amber, you look great today," but leaving out specifics of like, "What'd you do to your hair?" or whatever, because then people go in a spiral of like, "Oh my God, now I have to repeat what I did yesterday every day. If my hair, if I didn't do that to my hair, I'm gonna look like crap, or if I didn't put that makeup on, I'm not gonna look good." So, it's yeah, it's a weird society we live in that you have to think about every fucking thing that you say. But
Totally.
I think thinking more about it. I also
Yeah,
don't want
being
to have to,
mindful.
yes, being mindful. I don't want to have to think about everything in my head first before I say it out loud. But if you can at least think about these things on
Hmm.
your own time, and it can become more natural to say to your friend of like, "You're glowing
Sure.
today." I don't know. Like,
Yes.
but
And
I think,
even us talking about this on this podcast right now, like there's so many things where I'm like, ooh, that's probably gonna hit someone the wrong way, or that's
mhm,
gonna hit this person the wrong way. But like it's all like we're being mindful, I feel like, and
yeah,
we are trying to be mindful, but it's just like everybody, every person just walks a different path on this earth, and it's just a matter of fact that
yeah.
like we're all just people with bodies, man.
Yep. I mean, and I think if you think about things that you want to hear, maybe that could help you in what you would say to someone else, except for the fact that there's people out there who want to hear, like, "Hey, you look really skinny." Maybe just think about that in your own mind of why do I need to lose weight? And so for me personally, I have for years just kept gaining weight, and it's fucking annoying. But for a while I was like, okay, I'm gaining weight, but my clothes aren't feeling much different. So the weight on the scale doesn't always matter. Muscle weighs more than fat. Um, so there's times like I know I'm getting stronger, but these clothes still fit this, that, and the other. And then when it came to the point that like these clothes aren't fitting and I'm still gaining weight, and like fucking why? Because I don't want to. Because for one, it's like I don't feel good. I don't feel the way I want to feel. My body's not moving how I want to move it. Things are just more sore, this, that, and the other. So those are my reasons. It's not all just intertwined in like I want to be a size 8 or 6 or something, and be a smaller person. It's
Mhm.
just that like I don't feel good on the inside. And I feel that there's a correlation
Yes.
with weight gain. Um, but even just the last couple weeks, I've been focusing more on actually like not training intensely, like peppering in low intensity, and being really mindful of what I eat, not restricting what I eat, but trying to eat more, honestly, like eat more at breakfast time so that I am being satisfied and feeling satiated when I eat, instead of having this ravenous hunger hit me where I just binge eat or something. And because I know that these
And
certain foods
crash.
are going to fuel me better and make my recovery feel better too. And that's what I'm
Hmm.
aiming for. I don't want to be so fucking sore after every workout that I can't work out again for another 3 days. I don't want my knees to hurt so bad to like bend down and pick something up. And
Yeah.
we know that food affects those things. Food affects inflammation. And so again, I'm not on this like restrict, can't eat sugar, can't drink the beer, but like you said, being more mindful about what I'm putting into my body without trying to be restrictive or getting down on myself, because that doesn't help either. So
No, even though it's inevitable sometimes, like you
it
can't help
is.
that your brain goes there. But
Yeah, especially
but
us and folks,
yes.
women, people in our, like I've said, like age group who it's been ingrained in us. Um, I have friends too who have kids, and they struggle as well with like the movement that their kids getting, and I can't imagine that. I mean, you have a son, but I'm sure that it's still what you think about. You want your kid to eat well and be moving, and if he was gaining weight quickly, you would be concerned. But how do you navigate that as a
Yeah.
parent of as not to make it seem like it's because of looks, but it's about health?
Totally. Especially, I feel like most humans, people that I've known, like once they get to like an age range between like 7, 10, 12, we do put on fat naturally. And
Mm-hmm.
like it just is what it is. And then we go through puberty and it's the awkward phase and we look like either super tall or like just like gangly arms or like our bodies just like go through so much changing. And speaking of bodies going through changing, having a kid after
Mm-hmm.
women get pregnant and have a kid and then getting to know your new body again with every fucking pregnancy, man. Like it's,
Mm-hmm.
and even if you miscarried, even if you didn't carry to term, and like it all affects your body differently, and it's just so wild. Like my feet grew with every pregnancy I had.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a size like 7.5, 8 shoe. Now I'm like a 9, 9.5.
Mm-hmm.
It's just wild. It's just
Yeah.
so wild. And I can't even explain the difference of like your postpartum body.
Yeah.
It's
That's
just something that you don't even know. You just have to get to relearn your body again. It's just really wild.
I would love to eventually have someone on to discuss just talk about more like postpartum and things like that, because it, as being a women's coaching specialist, that was a huge part in my certification, was talking about pregnant, like all phases of life, pregnancy, postpartum, menopause, just all the changes we as women go through and our bodies go through. um and but again, our society, this is again like a whole nother fucking topic, which is why I want to have someone on there. But the fact that after having a baby, the quote unquote bounce back body, like how quick can you bounce
Oh yeah.
back to your like before baby body, this, that, and the other. And there's a lot of people, at least now, women, especially as women athletes, are continuing to like do their sport and be sponsored. They're not just dropped automatically once they get pregnant and never like picked back up. It's amazing to see that representation. But and the a lot of women speaking out of, no, my body has changed forever. It is forever
Mm-hmm.
changed after a
Yeah.
pregnancy. I don't need to bounce back, because even if, so
Yeah.
you've gone through
Fuck
multiple
yeah.
pregnancies. I have not gone through a pregnancy. We're the same age, and I'm still experiencing things that I'm not gonna have the body I had 10 years ago, but I wasn't happy in that body. So
Yep.
it's, I look at that pictures from high school or 5 years ago, and I'm like, oh my God, I look skinny, but in that time, I felt exactly how I feel now. Like, I just need to lose like 10 to 20
Yeah.
pounds and then I'll look like that. And it's like, what the fuck, man? Like, why can't you ever be happy with like what the meat suit you're in now? And, like I said,
Exactly.
there's differences between wanting to be smaller versus, knowing that you don't, like, something's off and that you don't feel quite right. And that's how I feel. I mean, yeah, there's still parts of me that want to be smaller because I just want to be able to buy clothes easier and fit into things and not, have this frustration. But Dr. Stacy Sims would be a dream guest of mine. She is just a huge mover and shaker in studying women physiology, and she's helped put together an app that I use, Wild AI, that you track your period, and but it has information across every part of your cycle about training and how you can train with your physiology. But she has a whole course called Women Are Not Small Men, because she's like, being an exercise scientist, whatever, she has been there on the front lines of knowing that all these studies are done on men. And you can't just say, like, oh, okay, men do this, and so women just should do it too, but like a little less. Or it's everything I feel like I talk about comes back to sport, but it's the shrink it and pink it thing. Okay, here's a men's pair of skis or snowboard. Now for the women's, we're just going to make it smaller and less stiff. So yeah, every test they put on
Mhm.
for or diet or whatever that works for men, they're like, sure, women can do the same thing. They just do a little bit less than men. It's like, no, women are not small men. Women are women. We are different human beings biologically. We need different things, and studies on women in sport and through life need to happen because, as we've also talked about, every fucking day pretty much is different in your hormone level. So that's
Yes.
men are pretty much the same.
Also, fun fact, Nicole told me that when human bodies are what is that called? Cremated,
Mhm.
that women's bodies burn differently than men because of
Wow.
how we carry our fat.
Yeah,
And they're like
yes.
there's a different like incinerator for women than there are for men. And it's just
Wow.
basically yeah, I she told me that and I was like, shut up, that's so crazy.
That
Also, I have
is,
a question.
yeah.
When, at what point in your life do you feel like you feel the best? Like what is your perfect scenario for you feeling the best?
What do you mean, like,
If that makes sense.
what, like,
Like
what?
what do you need in your
Mm,
life to feel physically feel good, mentally feel good? Like at what does it take for you to feel your best?
got it. Sleep, good sleep and movement. Um,
Yes.
for sure. And I was on a terrible cycle of not sleeping well and not getting the movement that my body needed. And,
Hmm.
I was moving, like, especially doing CrossFit. I love it. I loved it. But
Yeah.
my body couldn't keep up with that. And so the last couple weeks, like I said, that I've really been focusing on my movements. And doing like zone 2 training where I'm just walking. It's so fucking hard. I hate it. I hate it. I don't want to just walk. I feel like I'm doing nothing. Um, but
Yes.
I
I hear
have
you.
been feeling like then when I do my higher intense workouts, um, that I'm not as sore after. My body's been feeling good the last couple weeks. My knees are feeling a little less achy. My back isn't hurting quite as much. Um, and I'm sleeping better also because it's
Awesome. How
all
are
a
your energy
circle.
levels?
They're feeling
Yeah.
fine. I mean, I don't feel like I'm constantly fighting the desire to sleep or the urge for more caffeine or like an energy boost or something. I mean, I still go through those, but I'm not my brain fog too, because I know a couple weeks ago I was saying how just like weird and stupid I was feeling. Like I just couldn't think. That's been like feeling better the last couple weeks. And again, it's all of it's connected. The sleep, the movement that my body needs and wants, and even just that little more mindfulness of what I'm eating, trying to, and again, it's not restricting, it's trying to eat more. Like, yeah, for for breakfast, I'm feeling like I mean for breakfast today I ate half a pork chop because I brought it for lunch, but I was so hungry at the gym that I was like, I had my smoothie too, which is what I usually have for breakfast, but I was like, no, I need to eat that piece of meat right now. My body needs that real protein right now, not the protein powder. I'll have that in a second. But I'm like, yeah, I need to be listening to those cues more, but we're so tuned out of our body that we don't really always know what it actually needs versus wants, which is something we've also
Yes.
talked about. But I don't know, and so maybe trying to tune into that a little bit more could also help our body image in general, because if you're trying to tune into
Sure.
what your body needs from the inside and you're giving it that, then you're gonna hopefully feel better on the outside and get to the point that you're saying like, yeah, okay, so maybe I don't look the way I thought I did, as small or thin as I wanted to in that picture, but damn, did I feel good that night? Like,
Yes.
so it's just,
I
it's a
also feel
struggle.
like placebo goes a long way. Like if you tell yourself like if you give yourself positive affirmations, like
Yeah.
start your day off with positive affirmations, or
Hmm.
like if you have a negative thought about yourself, then you have to counteract that with something positive about your physical body. Like I feel
Hmm.
like that also our brains control so freaking much that we don't even like we either aware or unaware, like it has so much to do with everything,
Mindset.
absolutely
Yeah.
everything. So,
Mindset's
yes.
huge. And that's a big thing people talk about in all sorts of things, aspects of life, that is just that having that positive mindset rather than a negative mindset, because a negative mindset can
Yes.
send you into a tailspin of everything. And I've been trying to be more conscious of that because I can get down on myself very easily, from the silliest things. Instead of having a morning of just
Mm-hmm.
dropping shit and making a mess and spilling things, like, God, I'm so fucking stupid. I'm so clumsy. Like, what the fuck? Next thing I know, I'm like putting on a shoe and I'm like, what the fuck? My shoe doesn't even fit. How is everything in my body getting bigger? Like, why are my feet getting bigger? Like, it just sends you down into a bad place from the simplest thing when it's like, okay, I spilt the coffee, I
Yeah.
accidentally, like the other day I put I made my milk in my little frother and I poured the hot milk into my smoothie instead of the cold milk. Like I meant to pour that into my coffee cup, but I poured it over my frozen fruit. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Why am I so stupid? Why can't I just stop and think for a second? Why does my brain move way faster? Like my brain and body are not connected, but it sends me then into just the dumbest things. Like if I went to the gym and then I'm like, well, now I can't do this. Why can't I lift this weight? I could yesterday. And it's just like, no, what can your body do today? Like give it a
Yes.
try. There's a like an 8 minute rule. Like do something for
Mm-hmm.
8 minutes, and if you don't, it's not doing it for you, then stop. But after 8 minutes, then usually you're like good to go. Um, so I mean, I don't know how that would affect body image. For 8 minutes, just tell yourself that you look great and feel great. Say 8 times. I don't
I
know.
think it would have a lot to do. Yeah, I think it would probably have like a massive impact and a totally huge difference if you were like having a down day on your body, if you were to just like sit and reel it in and be like, you're healthy,
Hmm.
you have two working arms and two working legs, and just continue, like just really try to like go with the positive thoughts. And for
Hmm.
me lately, I've been comparing my current body to my body recovering post surgery and being like, wow, I am like so lucky to have this physical able working body and it's doing the thing. And like although tired today in
Hmm.
particular, it's amazing, it's incredible, and it's like the just like the capacity that we have when our bodies are healthy and
And
able
our
working bodies.
minds.
Like, yes, yes, it just has so much to do with all of it.
I do think, it could also be helpful to talk about the things that to a point, right? Like to talk about the things you don't like about your body with someone you
Ah,
trust or yourself, because
yes.
why? Break it down and then let those reasons sit in for a second. Like, why don't I like the my love handles? Because I can't find anything to wear. Okay, well, stop trying on the same fucking clothes. Like, stop trying to fit into that
Yes.
pair of jeans from that company in that size. Like, go try something
Mm-hmm.
different. Um, or like, why don't I like my legs? Because they're not as skinny as I want. But did they get your ass up that hill? Did they let you do that
Yeah.
squat? Um, I think sometimes we do have to recognize and acknowledge the things that we don't like, the things that are difficult, so that we can, it's like reverse wiring. Like, okay, well, now how do we go
Totally.
backwards and fix that thought and see the good in it,
Yep.
and not just
Also,
ignore the thing and hope it goes away, um or try to make it go away by this silly crazy dieting or spot reducing exercises that don't fucking work. Don't do them.
yeah, 100%. And another thing is looking at your genetic line, because a
Yeah.
big part of our body composition is who made us in the
Yeah.
fucking first place. And it once you look at that and you're like, oh, okay, that's just what my body's gonna do, and that's fine. Like it's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, stop trying to defy the laws of just the universe and of genetics.
Science,
So I was going to
man.
mention that a while ago when you talked about traveling to Asia and feeling better in our food and stuff. I was going to bring up the fact of some of my genetics are large European people. Like I mean,
Yes.
my mom is a
Same.
smaller human, like in stature than I am. I mean, she's 5'6" or something, not like small, small. But and my dad's not tall or anything, but down the line, if Norwegian people can be bigger people, I'm not a huge person, but it's just like we all have different things in our blood and genes that I'm not going to be a tiny person. Like bone structure is
Yes.
real and part of my body is going to be big. And when you can recognize that again and be just at least okay with that part and like I said, it's just I think to talk to your friends about it can be very helpful because they can assure you too that like I said, sometimes you do need
Plus
to hear the
someone
good
who,
things. Like that it's
yes,
nice to hear from your friends. And as you mentioned, some people might look at you and your body and be like, that's what I want. This chick who was coming to my classes a couple years ago all the time. She was a pretty small gal, and she would always tell me, she's like, your body is fucking banging. Like, I want your body so
yes,
bad. She's just like, your body is literally my goals. And I would just like I was always just very happy to hear that because I've
shock.
never heard that
Yeah.
before. And especially coming from someone who like looked pretty different than I did to hear that, but it felt good. I'm like, okay,
Yes.
yeah, that does make me feel like you'd think it'd be reversed that I'd be like, I want to look like you. You're so like small and petite. So it was like, okay, yeah, that people do want to have muscles and be bigger and I'm not just looked at as some ogre giant. um but so as I said,
And then
just being
also again,
go ahead.
mindset. That's
Yeah.
your mindset, and what your mindset, it's not the same as other people's.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think just ourselves thinking about compliments maybe that we're saying to someone, especially if we don't know what's going on in their life. If you notice a drastic change, I believe, in their body, I think that's a sign to take a step back before you say something, especially about their weight, because like I said, if it's drastic, that could be a sign that something's not right. Good or bad, but yeah, it could be a red flag. And but like I said, it's an interesting place to be to figure out because especially telling your friend like, hey, you're looking great today, and you can feel that their energy is like on fire, then that's just going to give them that little extra pep in their step. But like I said, maybe you hold back from saying it's like, oh, what'd you do to your hair today, or that makeup is like whatever on fleek. Do people say that anymore? Because that could then in their head mean I have to do this every day if I want to look good to other people. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think be honest with yourself and your close friends about your insecurities sometimes because there's no reason to hide everything all the time. And we hide our insecurities, thus they're stored deep down in a way we pretend they're not there, but we're secretly trying to, get rid of them. And it's just be honest. And that's one of the things I've been doing too is like if someone were to say to me like, hey, you look great, you've lost weight, and something tragic happened, I'm like, yeah, well, my dog died, or I'm having a really hard time right now, actually, because then they know now, like, oh shit, maybe like they can approach me differently for the next time. You don't always have to put your shit on blast. Not everyone wants to do that. Not everyone has to go in deep all the time, but I think it's also important for us to be a little more honest with each other, or the opposite. Be like, hey, you're like looking a little lean or whatever. Like, thanks. I've really actually been trying. I have this goal to do this or that, so people know, like, oh, cool, good on you. Um,
Mhm.
just and then there's another way to connect with you, like, so how's your training for that race going? Like, it's going great. Like cool, you're looking strong. Like, I don't know,
Yes.
body image, like everything is just so individual and just
Individual.
depends.
Yes.
But like I said, we all have issues. We all go through different things at different times. So just knowing that, and that's why I think you should feel safe and comfortable talking to your friends, because you may want to look like them and think they have the perfect body, and that's your goals, while they could be looking at you and thinking the same. And then you could look at each other and be like, bitch, we're perfect the way we are. Like, let's stop trying to be
Yes.
each other.
Or
But
try to fit into a bubble that our bubble just wasn't made for.
mhm.
Genetically, not genetically, geographic, what the fuck ever, like
Or
all of
just the
it.
season in your life. You just may not be in that season of your life that you can attain such a thing. Also, is whatever you want to attain sustainable? Then if it's not, then you have a long, miserable road ahead of you to keep it that way. So that's where I mentioning, focus on what's going on inside your body. Why do you want to change the things that you want to change? Is it really an internal issue that you're trying to address? And how can you just make yourself from the inside feel good, because that will eventually then radiate to the outside. um and
Yes.
and it will all be all right, even though I cannot wear these stupid jeans that everyone says I should be buying, or something that's popping up on my Instagram or whatever. Like, fuck that shit. But
Yeah, fuck
that's
that shit.
that's
Instagram,
just
know your body.
Instagram don't know shit. But also I did order some new bras that I think got delivered today. But it's fucking annoying as shit, because I went to Victoria's Secret the other day, I just need them so bad, but they changed the bra, like the style that I usually wear, where the whole strap is like elasticy, whereas the ones I currently have would be like the back half was elastic and the first part was like all one piece. But so with all that elasticity, that don't hold these things, like that does not make
No,
me feel supported. So I was super pissed. So I ordered some online through Third Love. I've tried them before and nothing fit. So I was super annoyed. But I changed the size and I went up a size. So I'm just hoping they fucking fit, because as I was telling Andrew, I'm like, I really don't know what to do if they don't fit, because that's another thing we don't have a lot of access to, is like bras. And where can I go that is going to offer me an array of sizes and styles that I can find that fit my body? So the fact that from the bare minimum, the fucking underwear that you can't find that like
yeah.
fits you well, I mean that's hard too. But so I'm going to try them on when he comes home with my package, and really try to like not get down on myself if they don't fit.
Yes.
Whereas I was kind of already spiraling before this podcast, thinking if they don't fit, I'm fucked. And what do I do? My first thought is like, again, I'm like, if I could just lose fucking 20 pounds and my boobs would be smaller again, then maybe I could go back to Victoria's Secret and just buy this fucking bra. But I know that even if they were one size smaller, this bra still would not work for me. But
Mhm.
yeah, so this podcast is giving me the mindset to, like, if they don't fit, they don't fucking fit. Doesn't work for me. Like, just try something new and don't blame my body. Blame the
Yes.
clothes.
Exactly. Exactly.
So anyway, that's all my rants on body image and the shit that I personally deal with, and hopefully there's some pieces in there that folks you can relate to, and just start thinking about your body differently, because I am going to try to do the same about mine.
Yeah, I definitely am too.
And work on some other kinds of compliments to people that don't have to do with looks or weight, especially. So if there's anything
Especially.
that you feel like you'd want to hear from people, a compliment that you don't normally get, that you would love for someone to say, that again is not anything about looks, like let us know. Hit us up with those ideas. Like, what do you want to hear? Like, oh, I'm so smart, or you're so witty. I would love that. I love to hear that I'm funny and witty because I'm witty as fuck. So
Yes.
I like when people can recognize that and appreciate it. So yeah, let us know if there's something like that that you'd love to hear so we can share with the world, of just give people other ideas of how they can complement their fellow sisters in this weird world we live in.
Yep.
And so next
Shoot.
week we
Everybody needs a
have,
different perspective.
yeah, next week we have a couple of recordings that we're going to be doing. Only one will be released next week. I believe it will be with Julia Arndt, our expert in burnout. So that will be fun and great to hear from her. I cannot wait for that one. And then we have Erica Vikander coming on, who will be, I think, dropping that episode the week after, and she has a um story to tell about her experience on the Free Ride World Tour and what she's experienced in like sexism basically through them. And I'm really excited to share her story and dive a little bit deeper into it as well, because like I said, we like to just try to keep it real here, have open, honest conversations. And I think she's got a lot of honesty about this organization
Mhm.
coming out, and just the way women in snowboarding and whatnot has been treated. And so I'm super excited. She's using her voice to fucking talk about it instead of sit by like and be a good little athlete on the tour, and not say
Yep.
these things that are fucking bothering her and that she wants to see changed. So change makers coming your way. And
Yeah,
with that,
baby.
yeah, so love your body and love yourself and all the things. And we will see
Kind
you
to the
all,
mind.
and your mind, and your mind, and your friends, and just everything. And we will chat with you all next week. We hope you enjoyed this episode and would do us a huge favor, since we don't have any sponsors or anything like that, and would rate and review us on whatever platform it is you use, Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, whatever it is. And if you're listening and downloading just through the website, tearingituppodcast.com, leave comments. We'll definitely engage back with you. And on social media right now, we're just on Instagram. Tearing It Up Podcast is the handle. Like the post, share the post, comment on the post, whatever it is you got. Show us your love so we just stay relevant and show up in the rankings at all. So again, rate and review, please. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.